Hello, fellow Equatorians. This is Sabata with the Equatoria Advocacy Foundation. I'm the Director for Resource Mobilization for the Equatoria Advocacy Foundation. This evening, I'm just coming out to give you some few updates on two important items. One, I would like to discuss with you the intended motive of the Arizona conference, and then the second item is I will just give you some highlights, kind of a broad explanation on the program, how it looks. You see, let me begin with the intended goal of the Arizona conference. Of course, the conference is going to be held on the 21st of August 2021, that is this year, and it's going to be a 2 days conference. It's going to be on the 21st and then on the 22nd. On the 22nd, it's going to be a half day, because the other half day we would like to kind of organize a celebration, an event, as a closing to the conference. And the intended goal of the conference is that the conference is intended to produce leadership, structural leadership of the Equatorial nation, the people of Equatoria. And when I speak of Equatorial nation, and that means I'm talking about Equatorians all over the world. The Arizona conference is going to produce a leadership for this nation, for Equatoria. And of course, somebody will ask, well, if it's going to be for the Equatorial nation all over the world, how comes it's only organized in Arizona? How about the Equatorians who are not in the United States of America, because Arizona, of course, is in the United States of America? How about these Equatorians who are not in the United States of America? I will get to that. But the most important thing is to explain to you that the intended goal is to produce leadership of the Equatorial nation, so that then the leadership of the Equatorial nation would basically pursue or put the Equatorians on a pathway or on a roadmap to exercise their rights to self-rule, to self-governance through referendum. This is the intended goal. And then eventually, once the leadership starts functioning, there will be an unintended consequence, but it will be positive. That is, it will unify Equatorians such that Equatorians would value Equatoria and come to realize that without unity of Equatoria and solidarity of this Equatoria, all the projects that are intended to be accomplished in or along these tribes of the Equatoria will not be successful. And as I start discussing, will basically clarify these claims that I'm making right now. If you people have noticed, the Equatorians have become too concerned or consumed in their tribal projects, so much that they hardly pay attention to build what is called the nation of Equatoria. And these projects that are designed to be done along tribes usually will not go anywhere if Equatoria has not been established well, including its security. I'll just give you a very simple example. It has just been a month ago when cattle herders were going through Loka, and all of a sudden they ended up attacking and destroying many agricultural products and a couple of lootings here and there, and there are some livestock that had been taken. So you can imagine if you are somebody who does not think of putting Equatoria in order, and you only think along tribal lines and want to develop some projects within tribes, eventually that might not go anywhere because of the current insecurity that is going on in the country. So you realize how then putting Equatoria in order would actually be beneficial to most of the projects that are intended to be exercised within tribes to become successful. Now let me get into the discussion. First of all, when we go to Arizona, and if we produce the leadership of the Equatorian nation, and later when I'm explaining the program roughly, I will explain how the leadership will be produced. But right now I'm still explaining the first item, that is, what is it that we are trying to accomplish. Excuse me. So once we produce that leadership, the leadership will be tasked with some responsibilities. The leadership will be tasked with a responsibility to record the human rights violations that's happening in the equatorial area, or amongst the people of Equatoria, within the equatorial territory. And the most important task, those records of those human rights violations will later be used then as evidences to argue, all right, some claims that will be put forward to justify reasons for secession as time go by. But then the most important thing, of course, for the creation of this leadership is basically to put the people of Equatorians in the pathway to exercise their rights to self-determination, self-rule through referendum. So that then means that the leadership will also be tasked with the responsibility to put petitions to the United Nations Security Council, or all these countries that comprise, those 5 countries that comprise the UN Security Council, and some other international bodies that could facilitate the process of a referendum to happen. The leadership will be tasked with the responsibility to do that. And every year then, the leadership would eventually be expected to call a conference so that they will update the people, the nationals of Equatoria, with how the process is going. And this is a very important process, by the way. It gives chance to the Equatorians to decide whether they want to be whether they want to remain integrated with the current nationals of South Sudan, or they just want to create their own state nation. This is very important. I know that there are people in Equatoria who are claiming that they want to remain integrated. Well, if we have what is called a platform to go and decide on that, then the outcome of the referendum would tell whether majority of the Equatorians are for secession or separation, or majority of the Equatorians are for unity or to remain integrated, you see. And so this is a very important process. That is one. The other thing that I would like to discuss with you is basically to give you kind of a broad picture of how the program is going to look like in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, with regards to the program, we have we have the following guest speakers. One, there is a guest speaker who lives in Cairo, in Egypt. She will come. She is a researcher, an independent researcher. She's a doctor. She's an anthropologist. She has made a lot of research for the UNMISS. She has ever been in South Sudan and understands the situation in South Sudan very well. And she even wrote a book about the situation in South Sudan. I think the book is titled South Sudan's Never-Ending War. And I think in brackets, ethnocide employed as a tool for state building. I might not be accurate on framing the sentences, but this is what it is, the title of the book. And that guest speaker has a priority to come. And until June, we will know, because she also has some concerns about the pandemic. And her concern is if the pandemic continues or worsens, then she would present her discussion on Zoom. Okay. And the other speaker that we have is also a doctor. He lives in UK, and the doctor will be coming. He says, the one who lives in UK says he will be coming. It's a sure case. He has not presented any concerns about the pandemic. Now, we have also two who are definitely going to be presenting their arguments through Zoom, and they are in Africa. All right, they are in the northern part of Uganda, and they are refugees, and they are considered to be elders around the community there, and they are going to speak on the living conditions and the current migration that is taking place, in which most of the Equatorians now are crossing over to Uganda, and some are crossing to Congo. And this is actually how the order is going to look like. And before I go to the order, we also wanted a guest speaker who would speak specifically on how Equatoria, and that was supposed to be the first item to be discussed, on how Equatoria was even created, the programs that were put together by the British that has resulted into institutionalization of these various tribes, into formation of what was known as the nation of Equatoria, and also the policy that got implemented by the same British that ended up institutionalizing this nation into Sudan, now pretty much diffusing the status of a nation, because when Equatorians were institutionalized in Sudan, the Sudan government at the time did not see them as a nation within Sudan. They were just looked as a group of people amongst the southern constituent, because the people who have come from the Upper Nile territory, and the peoples who have come from the Bahr al-Ghazal territory are all South. They are all referred to as South, and so they all came together and were referred to as the Southern Constituent. But that topic, the discussion on that item it's 50-50. It might not be in, or it might, and that is going to depend on whether or not I will get people from the Anglican Church to witness the event, the occasion, what is going on, and the importance of having people from the Anglican Church come to witness what is happening, even though they happen to just witness it on Zoom. The importance of having that discussed while they are there witnessing the event is so that they will eventually then have a clear understanding that we, the Equatorians, now understand very clearly that yes, the British institutionalized us into nation, and again institutionalized us into Sudan, in which the nationhood kind of withered away, and for that reason we'll basically make also some analysis that those policies that has institutionalized us into Sudan basically is the result of the conditions that we are living in today. And this is important in a way that could make these people realize where their mistake is. All right, and if they realize where their mistake is, they could sympathize in a way that they could eventually stand with the people of Equatoria, as the people of Equatoria down the road later demand for the right to secede. Do you see where that connection is? So it's very important that the issue about the making of the Equatoria and the institutionalization of the Equatoria into Sudan, the importance of that comes in when there are witnesses from the Anglican Church also attending the event, even on Zoom. But in the event that I may not get any response from the Anglican Church, because we are still putting the letter together, in the event that we are not able to get representatives from the Anglican Church to witness this, then yes, that item might become unnecessary. But then let me explain the next item on the list, which is ethnocide used as a tool for the state building right now. You know, this country, the state, the way the state is getting structured and the way it's getting built, based on the lady who is coming to talk about that, gives a clear understanding that pretty much the people of Equatoria, or the tribes of the Equatoria, could end up fall victims of ethnocide. Okay, and once that lady comes and makes the presentation, I think it will become clear. And if she also connects or makes the analysis in the context of how vulnerable Equatorians would be, that will be good. If she happens not to do that, then the moderator, who is going to be introducing the next speakers, would eventually do that. Then following that lady, then the two elders from down there would speak on the current living conditions, and also excuse me, and also the migration that is happening right now. And then we'll eventually break, we'll go for lunch, and then when we come back, we'll have our guest speaker who would be coming from UK. This is now time to propose solutions, okay? How do we then encounter the situation? Because once we hear the lady who would be talking about ethnocide, and in the context of Equatorians pretty much undergoing ethnic cleansing, then it will become clear that existential threat is real amongst the people of the Equatorians right now. And what will be the solution? Then the solution will be proposed after lunch, when the speaker from UK takes the podium to now give us a structure of how the administration of the nation of the people of Equatoria should look like. All right. Of course, that person will give a complete structure. There will be the governing institutions. There will be some administrative institutions as well, and excuse me, and there will also be a council, and of course, the speaker will come and present the structure, and people will listen, and people will also propose what needs to be added or what needs to be taken out. Now, once that is done, then the structure itself that has been presented would need to be adapted, you see. And the process of adapting it is very important. We want to make sure that it's democratic enough and it is inclusive, in order to make the structure and the leadership, the people who are going to be then elected to the position, will eventually become legitimate in the eyes of the Equatorians. It is for this reason that I've been in contact with people in Egypt and also in Uganda. Want to make sure that Equatorians are represented. They attend the conference even in Zoom. We also have not reached Canada, I've not reached Australia, I've not reached some parts in the Scandinavian countries, but eventually I will reach all of these people. I will reach them so that then if there are some communities of Equatoria in those areas, then we would expect them to send a person or two to attend the conference on behalf of the community on Zoom, so that then if the structure is going to be adapted, then all those people will be involved in the process. Now, my personal opinion is that given we the people of Equatoria, historically, we have administratively been demarcated into central, eastern, and western Equatoria. So the process of adapting the structure should be done in a way that will create seats. And first of all, we'll create a council, the seats of the council, and we will choose if we want 10 or 15 on each out of the three. Allow me to call these regions. Allow me to call them regions, okay, for the lack of a better term right now. The Central Equatoria region, Eastern Equatoria region, Western Equatoria region. So we'll have, let me say, 10 or 15 seats each, and then the 15 or 10 from Central Equatoria, there's 15 or 10 from Eastern Equatoria and from Western Equatoria, would eventually comprise or constitute what is called a temporary council members, because they are eventually temporary, because they simply became, or they took those seats just because of the fact that they were present in the conference, but they have not been elected by their constituents, by the people. Okay, so they will just become temporary at that time, simply just to vote in the process of basically adapting the structure that the guest speaker from UK, the doctor, would be presenting. And then once that process completes itself, then we will have a complete structure that has been accepted by presumably the people of Equatoria. Now on the following day, then there will be an election. All right, that's gonna be on the 22nd, because the first day is Saturday 21st, the second day is Sunday 22nd. It's going to be an election. We will elect people in some key positions in the governing sector of the structure, so that we will at least have leaders, all right, of the Equatorial nation in place. The other vacancies, the other places that will be empty, will be filled later. And then the temporary council members will be allowed just to go, all right, as we disperse from Arizona. They will go, but then it will be expected after a period of time, those seats should be filled by now people who are elected by their constituents. We'll devise how the elections should happen. Like people from Central Equatoria would elect their council members who would eventually sit on the seats of Central Equatoria. Eastern Equatoria would do the same, Western Equatoria would do the same. Now, as this leadership starts functioning, and by the way, if I'm not mistaken, the person who is the doctor who is going to be presenting the structure also talked about some clusters, all right, and these clusters are people who are trained in certain careers. Like for example, teachers will have a cluster, doctors will have a cluster, and engineers will have a cluster. We can call them clusters, we can call them departments, we can call them whatever it is. But of course, their assignments will be also given to them. They are basically technocrats. Teachers would basically build the educational system and the material information that is needed to educate children better, you know. And the cluster of doctors, medical doctors, would design some healthcare system services, how it can be delivered to the people. You know, we'll create pretty much more of a quasi-state nation, all right? Even though we are still in amongst the nationals of South Sudan, but we will have a parallel quasi-state nation, all right? And our leaders would basically speak on behalf of the people of Equatoria so much. Maybe in the beginning, the process would be, especially when these leaders start speaking on behalf of the Equatorians, in the beginning it will be a little chaotic, because I know how Equatorians think. Most of them would want to kind of sideline those leaders and not look at them as legitimate and all that. But as time goes by and the suffering starts sinking into the bones of the Equatorians, then they will start recognizing those kind of structures and realize that it's very important, especially on the fact that it's working to put Equatorians on the pathway to a referendum. All right, yeah, because I know how stubborn people are, but as time goes by, people will line up and will come to their senses, and basically this is it. And then with respect to unity of Equatorians, solidarity. Excuse me. Now, once you realize, I talked about a council earlier, 10 or 15 seats for Central Western and Eastern Equatoria. Now imagine, now we are having this nation where 15 seats belong to Central, 15 seats belong to Eastern, 15 seats belong to Western Equatorians, and these leaders always work together. They always come together, all right, and they look into what is called the interest of the people of Equatoria together. You see, and when they start working together like this, it will give, as they start looking at the interest of the Equatorians again and again, believe me, they will come to realize, and they can even, they will end up advising most of the people within their tribes to realize the importance of the structure of the nation of the Equatoria, and make these people realize, those who are stubborn, to realize that, look, without solidarity or success of the Equatoria, all those projects that are designed, that are intended to be promoted within the tribal lines would fail. Okay, and as time go by, I'm sure we will be able to persuade ourselves to come inside this understanding, and eventually, as time go by, would create what is called solidarity. Because if you guys realize, Equatorians once upon a time were strong together during the 1980s, when we were structurally structured such that the Central Equatoria and the Eastern Equatoria and the Western Equatoria basically worked together, all right? And it was during those days that Equatoria were very strong. But then right now, a lot of these divisions, administrative divisions, is affecting our people so much. These days, you'd be surprised, doctors, engineers, lawyers are all kind of too focused with their tribal projects opposed to building Equatoria, and I think this is just not a smart way to look at survival in South Sudan right now. You cannot survive in tribes, you Equatorians. You have to solidify yourself as a nation. Brothers and sisters, I hope this explanation has clarified a couple of things here and there. Hopefully, maybe in the weekend, on Saturday, I will come live to basically explain the things that I've just said right now. And brothers and sisters, the link is out there. Please pledge and kind of donate. And I want to thank those who have pledged, and there are those who have already started donating. I really applaud you, and I'm very pleased with you. I also want to appreciate my sister in Houston. I will not mention her name because I've not taken any permission from her. I want to respect her privacy. I want to appreciate her for the fact that she has taken responsibility to basically go around people she knew in Houston to try to raise the money for the lady in Cairo in Egypt, transportation of that lady to here and back to Cairo, and accommodation of that lady. Thank you very much. And there is an initiative going with the people of Minnesota. A gentleman said he's going to contact some few ladies over there. I don't know how that's going to come out, but I will wait to hear. And because we also want to fundraise for the guest speaker who is coming from UK, get him a ticket to and fro, and also accommodation here. And I would like to also appreciate a sister who called me today, and I will also not mention name, for privacy purpose, and I would want to appreciate her so much for telling me that she would take responsibility of her state with respect to collecting contributions, because she told me, and I respect that a lot, that this GoFund takes percentage out, but if some people just go ahead and contribute through Cash App, it will be better. There will be not much money taken out, and so she has just voluntarily said she will take care of her state, and I really appreciate that, and I wish there are so many of such Equatorians around. That will make life easier and our projects easier. I really thank you people very much. I want to say God bless you, and I want to say this year 2021, fellow Equatorians, we should really start thinking big. All right, let's start thinking big. Let's not always limit ourselves, limit our thinking. You know, sometimes we fail in so many things because we have always limited on we have limited our thinking. We have always thought there are certain things that are too big for us to accomplish. That's not true. Everything can be accomplished. Nothing is too big, brothers and sisters. Everything can be accomplished. If you have the will, there is always the way. I would like to encourage my brothers and sisters, fellow Equatorians, starting from this year 2021, let us come out of some bubbles that are kind of small, tiny like that, and let's kind of widen our bubbles. You see, let's widen our scope of thinking. All right, let's not limit ourselves. Every time you see this, oh no, I can't, that one is too huge, we can't do that. Hey, what is Sabata talking about? A referendum? Come on, man, this guy is not serious. No. These things are really easy. I know as I speak this, some people will start thinking of, oh, you know what, the most important thing right now is you need to have boots on the ground and all that. Look, I'll speak about this when I come out in live show on Saturday. All right, it's very important to know that boots on the ground are not ends, they are always means to ends. All right, when SPLM fought in the war of liberation, SPLM did not even think of something called a referendum coming soon. They were just fighting a war of liberation. And as SPLM started falling short and were not doing good in 2005, then President Bush of the United States of America basically brought in a referendum from nowhere, all right, and shoveled it down the throat of al-Bashir, and promised al-Bashir that if he accepts the Southerners to go for a referendum, their names will be taken out of terrorist list and all these kind of things. So some political settlements were done here and there, you see. So why am I saying this? I'm trying to say this in a way to say that always do not think that diplomatic means are unnecessary. No, it is always the diplomacy that settles, that brings everything to an end, to where the intention was needed. All right, boots on the ground are always means. They are only there to see into it that the political settlement, that is the diplomacy, the talking and the agreement and all that gets to be surfaced. All right, so let's not jump ahead of ourselves and kind of denounce one process and say no, we only need the other. No. All the process are necessary. Everything is important. But again, I will not get into that at this time. I just want to thank you very much for the time that you have put. I hope I've not bored you so much. I hope you have enjoyed this discussion. Thank you very much. God bless you.